So, what if I told you that one of our most basic, most natural desires, the desire to just be happy, is actually a trap? We're about to dive into this really powerful piece of wisdom from all the way back in 1966 that pretty much flips our modern search for happiness on its head. It all comes from a short text in a publication called Akanagiote, and trust me, it challenges the very way we think about hardship.
Okay, so it all starts with something we can all understand, right? Who doesn't want a life that's just full of happiness? It's completely natural to want to avoid pain and difficulty and sorrow. I mean, it seems like the most logical goal you could possibly have for your life.
But what if that core desire, that thing we all want, is actually flawed? This source text, it doesn't pull any punches. It's incredibly direct. It asks us to think about a pretty provocative idea, that wanting only pleasure and being afraid of hardship isn't just unrealistic. It might be something much, much worse.
And that brings us to the source's main point. It argues that this fear of suffering, well, it isn't just a simple preference. Nope, it's actually labeled as a major character flaw, a real weakness.
Here's the line, right from the text. It's pretty stark, and it's definitely meant to be. The author really wants us to get that, in their view, running away from the challenges that life will inevitably throw at us is like a stain on our character. That is a powerful and totally uncompromising statement.
And here you can see the two paths it lays out. On one side, you have the person who is afraid of hardship. According to the text, when challenges finally do show up, they just collapse into despair. They can't even live a normal life, forget about achieving anything great. But on the other side, the person who actually confronts challenges, well, that's the person who opens the door to real greatness.
So why is the text so intense about this? Well, the reason it considers fearing sorrow to be cowardly is actually pretty simple, because sorrow is completely, totally, and 100% unavoidable.
What's really fascinating here is the emphasis on equality. The text says that no one, not a single person, has ever lived a life of pure, uninterrupted happiness. And no one ever will. Suffering, it turns out, is the great equalizer. It doesn't care if you're a king or a servant, if you're powerful or powerless, it touches every single one of us.
And this suffering isn't just one thing, It wears a lot of different masks. The source lists several forms it can take, everything from physical pain and mental anguish to social and money problems, and even that deep sense of spiritual emptiness. It's just a constant presence in this whole human experience.
This brings us to a really key concept, what the text calls the inevitable state. Look, it's not a matter of if you're going to face hardship, it's a matter of when and how. The text basically argues that trying to escape this is like trying to escape the rain. It's a fundamental condition of just being alive.
Okay, so if suffering is going to happen no matter what, then what's the actual problem? Well, the source argues it's not the suffering itself. It's our reaction to it, our emotional response. That's where the real trouble starts.
Let's just walk through this cycle. First, some unavoidable difficulty pops up in our life. Second, our automatic response is to feel despair, to worry, to get anxious. But here's the critical third step. That reaction isn't just an emotion. It's actually an act of fighting against the very nature of reality itself.
The text has this absolutely fantastic phrase for it. Our despair and anxiety are a stubborn conflict with the world's permanent laws. We're essentially declaring war on a rule of existence that can't be broken. And that's a war you can never, ever win. It just creates even more suffering.
So if fighting it is useless, what's the alternative? This is where this wisdom from 1966 offers such a powerful shift in how we see things. It's about laying down our weapons and looking for harmony instead of always being in conflict.
And this, right here, is the core wisdom of the text. The goal isn't to have a life with no problems, because that's impossible. Instead, the goal is to find peace by accepting that hardship is just a non-negotiable part of being human. Real harmony comes from getting in sync with reality, not from constantly fighting it.
So in the end, this piece of wisdom from decades ago leaves us with a question that's just as relevant today. When hardship shows up in your life, and it will, do you see it as a fight, or do you see it as part of the journey?